Hi there, welcome to the latest episode of my 10-minute moan. This one's a cracker. This one is about the government, Scottish Government, the coalition between the SNP and the Greens. They're about to ditch their greenhouse gas projections, right? So this has been put online by the Telegraph, right? And the headline is, Yousaf will ditch Sturgeons' pledge to cut Scotland's greenhouse gases. The SNP Green government expect to use ministerial statement to confirm that the 2030 goal has been scrapped. Humza Yousaf will dump Nicola Sturgeons' flagship pledge of cutting Scotland's greenhouse gases by 75% by the end of the decade, it has been reported. Ms Sturgeon and her SNP administration was a global leader in climate change when the target was introduced in 2019, calling it the most stretching in the world. But in an embarrassing climb down, Mr Yousaf's SNP Green government is expected to use a ministerial statement at Holyrood on Thursday to confirm that the 2030 target is being ditched. Harmful emissions were supposed to have been cut by 3/4 compared to the 1990 levels. BBC Scotland reported that a final goal of Scotland's net zero by 2045, which is 5 years ahead of the rest of the UK, would remain, but the annual climate target covering emissions from sectors such as transport and heating could also be scrapped. So that would be 3 targets will be scrapped. Succession of missed targets. This is the next paragraph. The expected announcement comes after the UK's official climate watchdog said last month that the current rate of progress in cutting greenhouse gases would have to be increased by a factor of 9. That's multiplying it by 9, right? See what you're doing now. Do it 9 times better, just to achieve the 2030 target. In a damning report, the Climate Change Committee said this level of increase was beyond what is credible and was double the most ambitious scenario it had modelled if stringent measures were introduced. The assessment found that Scotland's annual target for cutting emissions was missed again in 2021, for the 8th time in 12 years, after greenhouse gas levels rose by 2.4% as the economy rebounded from the COVID pandemic. The Tories said ditching the 2030 target would be an abject humiliation for the SNP and its Green coalition partners. I kind of agree with that. Douglas Lumsden, the Scottish Tories' shadow net zero secretary, said, "For all the boasting about the supposed environmental credentials, the reality is a succession of missed targets and being forced to throw in the towel on this flagship pledge represents the biggest failure of the lot." I challenge that. I think they've had better failings than that. But this is pretty big and this is pretty funny because the Greens on power, and I'll get back to that once I'm finished reading the article. This climb down, this is still the Tory guy, this climb down is not a surprise given a damning report from the Climate Change Committee, but it's symptomatic of a nationalist coalition that routinely overpromises and underdelivers. Kind of agree with that. Michael Shanks, a Scottish Labour MP, wrote on X, formerly Twitter, defending the profits of oil and gas giants now binning their key climate target. Clearly, the Greens are having a strong influence in the government. Scotland deserves better than this lot. Tend to agree with Mr Shanks as well. The Scottish Government refused to confirm or deny whether the 2030 report would be scrapped, saying the details would be announced in the statement by Mary McCallan, the SNP's Net Zero Secretary. The Climate Change Committee is an independent statutory body that advises the UK governments and devolved administrations on their emissions targets. Just over 6,000 heat pumps were installed in Scottish homes last year, it said in last month's report. But this needs to increase to more than 80,000 per year by the end of the decade. That'll be another target they're missing. The committee also noted that publication of the Scottish Government's new draft climate change plan, which was supposed to have happened late last year, had been delayed. This meant there was no comprehensive delivery strategy for meeting future emission targets, and actions continue to fall short of what is legally required. Here endeth the piece, right? Now, what I find most funny about this is the Greens are part of the government, right? So, if you've got a party that's meant to be the champions of environmental issues, and they've shared power with the Scottish Government, and the Scottish Government, which includes them, has to bin one of its flagship environmental targets, what do we need them for? What purpose, what value do these Greens have, and what have they added to the party in Scotland? They are crackpots. They spend more time, right, talking about LGBT issues, transgender issues, all of that stuff, when their sole aim should be environmental stuff. And they're fielding one now. An absolute belter, right? Now, to be fair, this was a thing that Sturgeon brought in before the Greens got to power share with them, right? Because that would have been 2020, 2021. She shouted this in 2019. This is what we're going to do. We're going to be the most environmental, cuddly people in the whole world. And the Kill lap up that shite, right? I've never lapped it up because, I'll get a wee clue for you, right? Something I've never shared with you before. For 25 years, I worked in sales. I worked as a salesman, a sales manager, a sales director, a sales trainer. I worked in the motor trade, the home improvements, advertising, insurance, commercial cleaning, worked in all these industries, right? And one thing I learned, when somebody's talking shite, right? I didn't study body language, I didn't study vocabulary, speech patterns, all that stuff. You just picked it up, right? 25 years, maybe even longer actually. Sold my first motor car before I was old enough to have a provisional driving licence, right? So I was 16 when I first started in sales, right? That would have been 35 years ago. Aye, over 25 years in it, right? And I've never fell for your nonsense. And now, surely, every day, more and more of your members and your fans and your supporters are falling by the wayside because they're learning you talk nonsense, right? And all that's going to be left, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, by the time we get to elections and we have to stand in a polling booth and stick an X next to somebody's name or some party, we'll get the right barometer. But even the most nationalist of nationalists are finding it difficult to swallow your nonsense, right? And I predict you'll lose even more of them between now and the Westminster elections, and they are going to be terrible for you. I'm still thinking you'll get low 20s, between 20 and 25. That's where my money is just now. What you got now, 48, 49 seats. That's where I am, because this is just another great example of just saying words, just spouting nonsense, buzzword bingo, right? Going on about climate change and world leading this and going to be the best wee country in the world. Got a wee hint for you. See, in 17 years, if you just try to actually make it the best wee country in the world, you wouldn't be losing as many of your voters. You wouldn't be losing voters that actually want independence. You might even attracted some that didn't really fancy it, but thought, you know what, you're doing a good wee job here, making this place better, making the roads drivable, making education better, making the health service better, all these things. But no, you blew it. And you continue to blow it. So, as per usual, if you enjoyed the video, thumbs up please. Thumbs up are really important. See if you just keep hitting the thumbs up when you watch a video, I'd be really nice. I'd be really nice of you, right? About 10% of people do it. If 20% done it, what a difference it would make to the channel. Get involved with the comments, that's always a good laugh. But the most important thing of all, unless you're Humza Yousaf, unless you're the SNP, unless you're the Greens, or unless you're one of the cult that still fall for all the nonsense, everybody else, have a great day. Cheery bye now.